That sounds great. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Planning Committee for today. I'd just like to say that we're going to start a little bit unusually. We will be starting in a moment with the official agenda, but we're going to start before that with just a brief tribute to the Duke of Edinburgh, who died recently, as everyone will know, and just a word from me and then a moment or two silence and just reflection opportunity. So this is the life of a man who served with some distinction, I think it's fair to say, as a naval officer in the Second World War, and then married a woman who was expecting that she might become queen in due course, which did happen. He had a somewhat unscripted role in life. I think he made it his own by his personality and by just the pure length of his service, almost 70 years as consort to the Queen. So it's an opportunity for us to sympathise very much with the loss of the Queen and the royal family, and to admire the huge commitment he provided and the way he acted as a pillar to the Queen for that extraordinary length of time. Colleagues, in memory of His Royal Highness, the Duke of Edinburgh, just ask you to be silent for a few moments, please. I'll even say that again, having failed to unmute. Thank you very much indeed, everyone, and welcome again to the Planning Committee for Tuesday, the 13th of April. And we'll begin with item 938, which is declarations of any disclosable pecuniary interest. Are there any such, colleagues, remembering that you can, of course, declare on a specific item should you decide that's appropriate later on? Any now? If not, okay, on to 939. Are there any apologies, please?
Yes, I have apologies from Councillors James and Jeremy, and Councillor Harvey tells me he might be a few minutes late. I'll mark him in when he comes. Thank you.
For those who are watching, members of the public, that was the voice of Chris Crimmin, the Minutes Secretary. Thanks for that, Chris. And having agreed those apologies, we move on to 940, which is the minutes for our previous meeting, which was held on the 9th of March. And you'll recall that we passed these minutes through full council on the 30th. So all we need to do now is agree that these minutes are accurate. This is your momentary opportunity to say, colleagues, if you think there are any changes needed to make them a more accurate report of what we did in March. I'm just going to pause for a moment and then we'll move fairly smartly on, and I'm going to assume as I talk that that moment is going through. So I'm now going to suggest that we are agreeing that these are appropriate and accurate, and therefore they will be signed as a true record of our previous meeting. Okay, on to the business of the evening, which is actually rather twofold. We've got quite a lot of lates as well. So on to 941, planning applications to consider. And this is where we introduce our planning officer, Mark Webster, and ask Mark to take us through each of them in turn. So, Mark, if you'd like to go on to plan 0004 and kick us off there, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. So hopefully everyone can both hear me and see the document that I'm going to go through. This first one is just for information, really. This has already been circulated, and members have had a chance to make a statement on that. As we had a majority in support of this, I have already sent a response to this on Breckland, to Breckland via their planning website. But just as a reminder, I will go through and just illustrate the plan. So this is the Drake Primary School. They have an existing canopy on the side of the building, as shown in orange there. And it's basically being replaced pretty much like with the blue one, which is shown there and there. But as I said, we have already had the chance to comment on that, and that response has gone to Breckland, who have in turn passed their support on to Norfolk County Council, who will be finally deciding on that one, as it is a school. Are you happy for me to move on to the next one, Chair?
I hope so, unless there's any comments on that first one, as Mark indicated, probably not necessary. A very slight pause, and yes, please, Mark, on to the next one.
I just checked, Chris, are you able to see the chat at the moment, if there are any comments coming up?
Yes, I'll tell you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I will do.
Thank you very much. So 16 Icknield Way has sort of been and gone and will come back again. It will return later on, as I say there. It's now been replaced by a full application, plan number 0480, which we'll come to in due course. As I said, but 16's been withdrawn. So we'll move on to 0118 and 9, which is Nicola's House. There are a series of sort of small changes and clarifications which form this application basically. All the changes are marked in red, which hopefully council have had a chance to sort of have a scrutinise. So there, it marks there, for example, that some of the windows on the lower level there will now be will be obscured to avoid the chance of overlooking. There's more details of the sort of roof tiles and other sort of detailed features of the building, which are shown in there and the following plans. And a slight change to the arrangement of parking. The County Council Highways Department have said they're satisfied, given its location, with the number of parking spaces still. There's more detail here, particularly about some of the window features. And again, the historic buildings consultant is happy with this application as it stands. And there's just, as I say, slight change apparently to flats 7 and 8 of this development. It's getting slightly more floor space apparently, although it seems very much a similar footprint to the way the building has been laid out before. But yeah, there are a few more square meters of space on those ones. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments, please, on St Nicola's House? Wow.
Note, Mike, if I may.
Can I ask in that case a slightly more fixed question, which is there anyone who objects to us supporting this proposal?
Stuart Wright was trying to talk, I think.
Sorry, that's Brenda, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, Stuart Wright was trying to talk, I think.
Sorry, Brenda, were you saying you're basically you are saying you're in favour of it?
No, what I'm saying is I think I heard Stuart Wright trying to say something.
Okay, is Stuart?
Yeah,
Stuart,
Mike.
are you? Thanks for if you've drawn our attention to it, Brenda. Thanks, Stuart. Are you wanting to speak?
No, I was just going to be complimentary in the detail that was put forward, and it's nice to see some of the sliding sash windows, albeit new versions of them, trying to be in keeping with the remainder of the building. So it's, I think it's give credit where credit is due, that they are trying to get it in the style that it is, rather than something completely different.
I think that's right. We if it comes to us having been supported by the Historic Buildings Officer, that's often a good situation to be in. Okay, I'll repeat that item and that comment and then move on. If you don't reply, is there any objection to us saying that we are supporter, colleagues, please? Okay, there isn't, Mark, so I think we are clearly saying we are supporting 0119, which is St Nicholas House. And so if I can move you on to the next one.
Yeah, so 120,
screen,
this one. Sorry?
Yep, sorry, I was talking over you. I apologise. I said it's now on your screen.
Right, yeah. So this is 120 Hawthorne Walk, which is the end of Hawthorne Way there. So we're talking about this plot next to this existing house. So it's, I say it is being built, has been almost completed apparently. As I understand it, the building is pretty much done. However, the planning application is now in for the house on there, on the end there. So looking back just briefly to that house on the end there, we're looking at this area here when we see the sort of darker section on the plans here. Apologies if you can't read the detail of that. I tried blowing it up, but it's very hard to read at any sort of magnification. However, I think probably in terms of being able to make a decision on this, the sort of technical details there probably aren't necessary, and hopefully from the plans you've got enough to go on basically with, as I said, that's the existing house and the addition which is taking place on the edge there.
There's a hands up, Chair, from Councillor Hodgkinson.
You're welcome to speak now, Councillor, please.
Hi, thank you, Chair. As the person putting in this application is a very close neighbour of mine, I don't intend to cast any opinion or make any resolution about this. But he did come over to me this evening and asked me if I could read out a statement from him. This is from Stuart Neal. So if you're happy for me to read that statement out.
I think we are certainly happy to read for you to read that statement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, this is the statement. Whilst construction of the new property was confirmed in February 2021 with building control as taking place or commencing in August 2017, planning have requested a new application to be started due to technicalities. Previous application was passed by Thetford Council and Brecon District Council after an appeal to the Planning Inspectorate that concluded that the proposal would be complementary to the character and appearance of the area, and that the provision made by the proposal in relation to parking and bin storage would be adequate. The full report overruled all complaints made at the time that have been raised again on this reapplication for parking, overlooking of other properties and bin storage. The addition of a gate to the existing property will be carried out at the time of fences to the new building being erected, as will removal of the current occupier's shed to allow for exit to the rear path. Breckland planning officers have twice previously recommended approval, as have highways, who have made recommendations on marking of parking areas only, and I cannot see any new grievances having been registered that would give reason for the Town Council to change its previous opinion, as this development is in keeping with other properties in the area as concluded by the Planning Inspectorate. That's the end of the statement.
Thank you very much. Are there any further comments from colleagues? Please, now is your opportunity.
There's a hands up from Councillor Robinson.
I'm not able to see, so I'm grateful for those who point out to me that there are colleagues wishing to speak. Mark Robinson, it's your chance, please.
Thank you. It may come as no surprise that I'm opposed against this application. Interesting enough, I sat on the planning committee when this first came forward. So whilst it was 2013 was the first time it came forward, and actually members chose to go against the officer recommendation. So while the applicant's correct that the officers on both occasions recommended approval, the member, and it went through on appeal, members actually were against the proposal. And actually, I support the local residents on this. It has had a major impact. I know the area well because I used to live there. It's had a major impact on the amenity of residents. It's turned two semi-detached houses. It's actually had a detrimental effect on the property on the left of your picture. It's had a detrimental effect on that house by lowering the value of their house significantly because they've moved from a semi-detached to an end terrace. I do think it's a congested area, so I still think it's overdevelopment, and it has an impact on the parking and amenity. So I actually would like to see us oppose this.
Thank you very much. Jenny Hollis, Councillor Hollis, you've got a hand up, I think. Would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. With what Councillor Robertson's just said, I got first to hear about this when I was Brecon Ward Councillor and Town Ward Councillor in 2015. Obviously, the neighbours were quite opposed to it. I was under the impression at the time through planning that there was a time limit on the build, like of 3 years. I may be completely wrong, but that was the impression I'd got from talking at planning. So when I come in at 2015, obviously the neighbours around there called me into it. But there's a parking, it's gone right up to the wall of the car parking area and that, and it is an overdevelopment. So I can't support this. Not as no, I can't support it. It's overdeveloped, and now we've found out that the you know, as it is, it's lowered the price of the house next door. It wasn't on the end, but no, I don't support it at all. It's an overdevelopment.
Thank you very much.
Chair,
Mark,
Councillor Robinson would like to come in again, please.
Mark, would you like to come back, please?
Yeah, thank you. Just so we're in possession of all the facts, is this obviously the build started taking place last year? So I looked at this, I was somewhat surprised. So I had some engagement with the planning department at Breckland. And as I understand it, the conditions were met when the application was approved on appeal. Some initial bore work was undertaken by the applicant, and that is considered to be commencement of build. So conditions were met. What I'm somewhat surprised at, though, it's effectively a completed home. I know you visited the site, Chairman, and so have most of the people on the call tonight. So I'm somewhat surprised to find that this is a retrospective application. And I don't know if maybe you, through the chair, or Mark, our officer, is able to provide some clarification to that position, because I'm somewhat bemused by it, to be honest.
Thank you very much for that. Are there any other comments, please? We've got Stuart Wright with a hand up. Stuart, would you like to speak, please?
Yeah, just following on from Councillor Robinson's point, I think it is something from this committee to understand why it's come back. If they've met the conditions and started, then why are we having a new or a retrospective application being put in? You know, I think, you know, we made our decision based on the initial plans, and presumably we still stick by those thoughts of those plans that are before us and which have been built now. But, you know, Mark, can you clarify, you know, why we're having this put through? If they met the conditions, why they haven't put a new application in?
Sorry, I'm just checking through this now to just see if I can work out the answer to your question. At the moment, I can't quite see myself, to be honest, I'm afraid. I think we're looking at, because it's, I mean, the original or the previous application was 2014. So when they actually started would be key, and I suppose if there is some question over what constitutes the start of the process of building, that might be sort of the technical question issue here. I wouldn't like to say further without actually having a conversation with the Grassland planner and actually getting confirmation of what exactly has gone on in terms of the process here. So I'm afraid I think I'll have to leave it today without being able to fully answer that question, I'm afraid. So I think from the point of view of making a decision tonight, we can only go on what's been presented to us, i.e. an application, a current application now, which is yet to be decided. So as I say, I'm afraid I can't really sort of go into that, I think, usefully further at this stage, but I will actually try and look into that and see if we can get a clarification. But as I say, I still think we need to actually make a decision on this application as it stands for the purposes of tonight's meeting, if that's all right, folks.
Can I say, Chair, that Councillor Harvey is with us and has his hand up?
Councillor Harvey, glad to have you with us, and if you'd like to speak, well, it's your turn now.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. Apologies for being late, but I had to go and collect a wife from work. Someone's got to keep me, haven't they? I mean, I'm like the rest of the. I went to have a look at this, and I must admit, I mean, I agree with Jenny and Mark. It's definitely overdevelopment. I couldn't even drive round. I had to walk round there. I couldn't get my car through. So it's I would support refusal or whatever it is we have to do.
I'm going to make a personal comment, but I would like to give everyone else an opportunity to speak should they wish to do so. At the moment, we've got three councillors who've spoken, and all three of you have said that we should oppose this development. Are there any other councillors who would like to make a comment, please? Okay, I'm going to add my Faulkner worth in that case. As you said, Chris, I did spend some time on the site. In fact, in the end, I spent 2 hours looking at it because a number of neighbours were very keen to speak about it. I spoke to 4 different neighbours in the end, and actually that's not many more than there could have been, because one house was vacant and others are owned or occupied by the developer. If you look at the plan, you can see that clearly this is a cul-de-sac. And it's an extraordinary cul-de-sac in that off it there are a number of developments, much more than you would normally expect. So because of the arrangement of the walk behind it, and you can see there that you've got a kind of shovel shape at one end, and that's where the new house is proposed. On the occasion when I went there, it was virtually impossible to park. The car park itself is subscribed, as it were, to sometimes some of them spaces are needed by the people living behind, sort of top right on the plan, and the road itself was completely full of cars on both sides, and I managed to park illegally eventually, but most people were having to go right back to the main road in order to find a parking place. So I think there's clear issue about parking. The neighbours I spoke to were, all of them, against the development, and disappointed that it had taken place. The problem is not just parking itself, but access to the parking as well. There's a limit to the amount of parking that can be done simply because of the access to the car park area, which is, as it were, above the proposed development on the map. If you see what I mean, it's just nearer slightly nearer the top. Really difficult place for access by vehicle. I would have been very concerned indeed had I wished to drive an ambulance or worse still a fire engine down there, and particularly if I needed to get to the houses again, looking at top right. It is really, to my mind, already inadequate, and putting in one more house, which is likely to lead to perhaps 2 more cars needing to be parked, seems to me quite inappropriate. I'm sticking my neck out a bit in that I'm a member of the an alternate member of the planning committee at Grassland, so I'm now, as it were, declaring that I'm not impartial. I'm really not impartial. I'm very happy personally to support those 3 councillors who have spoken against this proposal, and unless anyone else wishes to come on with a quickie, I'm going to recommend that we oppose this development. And regardless of whether the house has been built already, which it has, that's not our fault. We're as the planning officer quite rightly said, we have to make a judgment on what's put in front of us, and that's what we are doing. Are there any other colleagues who wish to speak, please? Otherwise, I'm going to say that we're opposing this proposal. Okay, we are opposing it, Mark Webster, and I'd be grateful if you would make it clear that a lot of thought's gone into this. A lot of councillors have spent time on the site and are finding it very difficult to comprehend how the parking can be seen to be less than totally inadequate. Okay, so can we move on to, that's perhaps one of the trickier ones. Can we move on to one of the others, please? So we're moving on to, when we're ready, we're going to move on to 0348. There it is.
So Riverside Walk. Again, this is one that's just purely as a reminder. Members have had a chance to express an opinion on this and have done so. So our response in support of this has been sent to Breckland. So it's the just a reminder, this is referring to the shop on Riverside Walk there, and the frontage of the shop will now look like that. As I said, it's already been gone through, so I propose to move on, as long as you're okay with that, Chair, to 0376. If there are no comments on that one.
Yep. Okay, I think I'll just I think we perhaps just want to pause a bit, if you pardon me, on 0348, because there have been two councillors comment on it. I think was it Jenny? I'm not sure. It was either Jenny or Brenda, and then I think also we had a comment from Stuart. If you want to take that any further, colleagues, I think we need to say so that we can make a comment about this. It was along the lines of, isn't this a heritage area and shouldn't we be doing better than this? That was a summary of what you've said, I think. Is that correct? Are there Stuart or Jenny or Brenda like to speak, please?
This is
Sorry
what
to interrupt. I think
Councillor
that refers to the subway on King Street.
Yeah, Mike, my comments are really on the subway one. I think, you know, where we are down with this 60s building, there's very little we can do down there to improve the lot. But King Street was my main driver on the comments earlier, okay. So we can address that later.
Yeah.
Okay.
That will be coming up in a little while.
Yeah. Okay. So we're happy with that one then, and let's then move on to. Are we on 0376 now?
We are 0376 Spring House. So installation of a satellite dish, TV satellite dish on the back of Spring House there. There's the road, there's the river, there's Spring House. Yeah, simple one really. No objection.
Any objection to that, colleagues? No. Okay, I think we're agreeing to that. Would you like to leap on to 0388?
Yeah, so this is for the Kingsfleet development, and this phase of the development there. There's the sort of main street around it, just coming off the Norwich Road. So that red area there, which is to be basically a works access. So this is for the duration of the construction works, a sort of splayed access with signage, as you can see, to be installed along the Norwich Road to, as I said, provide access for construction vehicles entering that portion of the site.
Any objections, please,
Councillor Wright put his hands up just as you were closing down the last one for the Sky Dish. I'm not sure. Councillor Wright.
Yeah, Mike, if I may.
Yes, please, Stuart.
Yeah, it's not to do with the planning. It's more just it's jogged my memory. I wonder if Mark would be able to look into. We did have a green heritage plaque on Spring House many years ago, and the previous owner removed it and deposited it at King's House when the officers were there. I think, given we've got a new owner there, would it be possible to inquire whether we can get that green plaque put up on Spring House gateway? If it's still in existence, I think Tina had it in her office at one point.
Okay, I will see if we can.
Thank you very much for that, Stuart. Do you think, Mark Webster, that's something we can look into?
I can certainly investigate, see if we've got it, and see if it can be reinstalled. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Robinson says good idea.
Yeah, thank you very much for that additional comment. I think when you're ready, Mark Webster, we will move back to where you were. You pardon me.
Yeah, well, that's all I think I need to say on 388, the access. So yeah, back to you for that one.
I've already managed to confuse King's Fleet with King Street once at least this evening, and this is a new development. So we don't have any ward councillors because there's no ward at the moment for us. And unless there are any comments, I would suggest that we support this. It is a necessary part of what we've already in principle agreed to.
Support.
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 Support, yeah.
Support.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, colleagues. I think that's a majority. So we're saying yes to that one and inviting you, Mark Webster, to carry on to the next one.
Okay, so 401 and 2, the Dolphin on Market Street. So the original plans had 6 units in here, one of which was a 3-bedroomed unit here. The new proposal is to have an extra flat, basically. So there'd be 7 flats, actually 1 less bedroom in total, but there would be an additional flat there. So yeah, it seems to be basically the same footprint. I've picked out this as the detail, which is explaining the main differences, which is of this proposal. No objections really from any of the relevant bodies concerned with historic features. So yeah, basically just a sort of slight change of arrangements within, basically, in terms of having an extra unit. In terms of the parking spaces, the same number of parking spaces, and I say actually it's 1 more flat but 1 less bedroom overall for the site.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Robinson, please.
Thank you, Chairman. So the applicant's adding 1 additional unit, but not increasing the parking provision. So how is that magical 7th unit going to park? Where's the provision?
Well, just to clarify, as I said, there is a parking space. In fact, there's 2. Depends how you number the units, but there are sort of basically. If we look on the right-hand side here, their proposal is to basically allocate 1 parking space per bedroom on the new development. I haven't picked out. There are obviously units 1, 2, and 3, but I've sort of ignored them because they're not changing with this new proposal. Yeah, as I said, there's actually, I mean, it's arguable whether it's better or worse, I suppose, isn't it? But in terms of the footprint developments, it's unchanged. In terms of the number of bedrooms, it's actually down 1, but although, as you say, there is an additional unit. So as I said, each unit would basically have, under these proposals, 1 parking space per bedroom.
Okay, can I come back, Chairman, please?
Yes, please.
Thanks for that detail, Mark. I don't think the applicant's given us enough information, to be honest, because it clearly says on what I'm seeing on screen, 6 parking spaces under the original plans and the proposed plans. We are talking 7 units. That's 7 families or individuals living in 7 joined but separate independent units. One of them is going to struggle to park on that site, which means the parking is then going to overflow into what is already a difficult area to park in. And that's why I'm asking specifically for detail around the parking arrangements, because the original 6 units, 6 parking spaces. They're adding an additional unit.
So sorry to clarify that. That's total for this part of the site allocated parking spaces. So it's not for the whole site. So I've ignored units 1, 2, and 3 in terms of bedrooms and parking spaces on that. Sorry, I didn't clarify that before.
Thank you for the clarification, Mark.
Any more comments on this one, please? Where we're looking at 3 units being replaced by 4 units, and the footprint, if you like, the size of the building remaining basically the same. I'm going to suggest, and I hope Mark Robinson is happy with this, or at least content with this. I'm going to suggest that we do support this, unless you want to say otherwise, Mark Robinson, and your chance comes now, colleagues. Any feelings about whether we support it? I've made the bold suggestion that we should say we support it.
In the chat, I have a support from Councillor Harvey.
Thank you. Okay, no opposition. So,
Councillor Barretto.
Yep. If anyone else wants to, then please do.
Support.
Okay.
Support.
Thanks. We've had several.
Councillor Robinson, there's an abstain.
Appreciate the abstention as well. I'm going to suggest that we now have a majority in favour of supporting this, Mark Webster. So that one will, from our point of view, can go ahead.
Okay, are we on to the next one then, Chair?
Yep. So I think we're on to 402 now, please, Mark.
I've got 416 next. As King Street.
Yeah, it's the next one.
Sorry, it's by not providing you with a paper copy, isn't it?
Yep.
So yeah, I've got 416 now. So this is the one that you were, I think, mentioning earlier with regard to some councillors have already expressed sort of opinions via email on this one. So I'll just run through the proposal then. So we're looking at the subway store there, which is pictured and marked in red there. So the existing are on the left in this case, and the proposed on the right. So basically, instead of having the two doorways to the site, they're proposing to just have the one with larger windows here. So again, that doorway, as I say, being basically replaced. And instead of a wooden frame, the proposal is for an aluminium frame around those windows.
Thank you very much for that. We've had some comments from colleagues, written comments from colleagues. If you'd like to speak for or against now is your chance.
Mr. Chairman.
I've got a hand up from Dennis, a hand up from, I think, Jen, although it seems to have disappeared. So can I start with Dennis and then bring in Jen as well? So Dennis Crawford, please.
Yes, my main concern about it is you've got two doors there now, and we're going to reduce it to one door. And in this day and age with the pandemic and everything, the traffic's going to be forced through a smaller entrance at this time, and I don't think that's very good. Also, I don't know for certain, but it seems like it also, if they had a fire or something in there, it would force everybody out the one single door instead of having a double door. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've got Jenny and then Brenda, please.
Not me, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, thank you. I think I was looking at a redundant elderly hand, if you see what I mean. One that was perhaps from a previous item. Sorry about that. So,
right,
Brenda, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'll take you back to our planning policy, and basically our planning policy was a wish list. I know it's a wish list, but if we look at what Hemingway was trying to get across to us, that we've got to be more bolder. Now, to me, King Street is a conservative area, and we should be trying to encourage new shopkeepers as they come along to try to get back to our old style. You can do it modern, you can do it modernly, but still make it look nice, rather than have all these odd shops around the town. You know, I think we should be looking at our wish list when it comes to King Street, Guildhall Street and Market Street. I'll hand you over to Stuart, if I may, because I know he has sent a document through, which I think is quite nice. And it's also we need to look at when they paint the shops. I know the YMCA worked with us, asked us what colours, but that's all in our document. But if we're just going to give up, we might as well give up forever. But we've produced the document. We might as well try and work to it for the future. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Brenda. Stuart, you've been sort of invited by a colleague to comment. Do you wish to do so?
I think, thank you for that, Brenda. And I think you share my sentiments that we went through the pain of adopting a wish list, a document, which was supposed to be a memorandum for potential developers and people coming to town to get an idea of what, as a town council, we were looking to deliver down there. So I think we ought to pay reference to it, because we did, as a council, adopt that as our, not say a policy. It probably is a policy, but it's obviously not in terms of planning law something that can be held up to be something that you would measure against for law, but you could measure against it for desires for the town. And I'd mentioned Hemingway earlier on in my email round, because he's saying we've got to make Thetford the best we can be. But quite honestly, and he was talking about working in partnership and all this stuff, telling us what we already know. But we do need to make a stand and start doing these things if we are going to make it the best we can be. And I know, looking at the picture of the building there, the flat roof, it's not an old world building, but I think we can go to a halfway house to look to improve the shop fronts that we do have down King Street. I think Riverside Walk was a different kettle of fish, but King Street, there are some nice facades down there, and with the way that shops are going out of business at the moment, there will be lots of new tenants changing hands in the future. And I think we ought to set our marker down to say that we do wish to have an improved shop fronts down there, rather than this brash big windows. The existing windows there do have a small step. The brickwork goes up a little to give a bit of a character. With the revised aluminium bit, there is a full size window. I did send an example round, which I thought was a decent halfway house type thing, where you're improving the look of it, but also making it functional to have the large windows to see inside. And I do take on Dennis's point about the doorway, moving to one doorway where you've got a lot of people going through a fast food operation. It does seem that you're going to try and squeeze them all through one door. But yeah, I've put lots of my comments in the email I sent around earlier, but I do think we ought to extend them.
Right, thank you very much. I think it's fair to say that many chains where there are multiple retail outlets do find that they're able to produce a better quality building if the local planning authority makes a point of it. So I would suggest, colleagues, gently to you that it's worth trying this on this occasion. And we've had two eloquent comments about the need to consider that this is central to our heritage area, and we should be looking for improvements each time the opportunity comes. So I wonder whether, Mark Webster, you can feel that you can write something up here which is probably a support but rather than opposed but the support, but we are concerned that an opportunity should not be missed to support the general rules by which we would like to see developments take place within our central town heritage area. And if necessary, can I suggest gently to you, Mark, that you have a brief conversation with Councillor Stuart Wright to get the wording correct subsequent to this meeting, perhaps. And I'll just, before I don't want to make an assumption that everyone agrees with that, but I'm now give you a brief opportunity to say that you do agree with that. Dennis, hand up. Yeah. I don't know whether you've spoken on one. From
Councillor Robinson.
But if you want to
I just want to say that I disagree. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more, please?
Robinson, Chair.
Sorry, I missed that.
Councillor Robinson.
Councillor Robinson, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I've got no issues at all with the course of action you've suggested with the officer, but I was just going to also maybe suggest an action going forward. As you would be aware, Brecon have launched the shop improvement scheme, the shop front improvement scheme. where retailers can apply for a grant of up to £2,500, where it's a lick or paint or something a bit more significant. And maybe it's something for the planning committee to take the lead on and reach out to our retailers.
That's very helpful, Mark, and I think that's something we should include in any comment we make, Mark Webster, so that we're kind of downing a bit of a carrot there to them, which is, I think, could potentially be a good consideration for them. So, is everyone happy to leave it there, please? So we're saying we support it, but we're expecting. Brenda, are you going to come back to us if you'd like to speak again, please?
Yeah, it's just a quick one, really. I think it's where we're going to start. So if we can start here, send our I don't know if Breckland's got our document or not, but perhaps Mark could include that. And perhaps some of the councillors on this committee can go through it again to refresh your memory every time we have a meeting. And about what we've actually got in that document, because there's no good us sitting down writing the document, the planning approve it, the council approve it, and then we oppose it, or we don't do any work. But I think the way that you're going is a start, and we can keep all we've got to do is remember, keep the pressure on. If it's King Street, Guildhall Street, Market Street, keep the pressure on as much as we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Robinson, did you want to come back?
Mark Robinson, back again.
Yes,
Thank you, Chair.
Mark Robinson, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to reiterate my point there, because I think it might have been misconstrued. When I mentioned the shopfront improvement scheme, I was talking about us as an action point, reaching out to our retail community, not just specifically this application. So us being proactive, because it's great that we might recommend this to one shop, but if we really want to impact our retail offer and get people back onto our high street, encouraging more of our businesses to take up that grant offer is only going to help. So I would like to see it go forward as an action point, if we can, please.
I totally agree with that. I hope we conclude that. And Stuart Wright, you'd like to come back again?
Yeah, just to say, I definitely think we ought to send our document into Breckland again, because planning officers probably don't bother looking at it, or are new to the post and are not aware that we have one in place. But we have to keep banging on at them time and time again, I think, to get the message across. And I think Mark's right. We need to communicate with all the shopkeepers in the town centre and make them aware that there is this, and phrase the terminology. So now is the opportunity to improve your shop front. And we can mention the Hemingway project. We've tried to do an improvements to the town and make it the best it can be. And if money's available for them to do that, then let's make them aware of it and try and twist their arm to help out.
I suspect, Stuart, that we need to encourage, sorry about this, Mark Webster, but I think we need to encourage you to send it every time we make such a comment. And it may not be very often, but certainly you may get a different planning officer, you may get someone who's not familiar with the scheme, you may not get someone who doesn't know the town. So I think that's good advice, which we ought to accept. I'm just checking at the moment. I've still got a hands up from Jenny and from Brenda. I don't know whether either of you would you like to speak again in that? In which case, it's Jenny first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Dennis about the 2 doors and it being a busy shop, but I also, if I could make a comment as well about this scheme Breckland are doing for the shop. We've got some empty shops that hopefully will be filled. Maybe we could liaise with these new people that take the shops and explain to them about the Breckland thing, so that we might be able to start, when new people move in, we might be able to start with them on getting what the town, we would like our town to look like. So that would that be feasible, do you think?
We can but try.
Yeah.
With that brief comment, I'll pass to Brenda, please.
Yeah, there's just one final point in that document. It also says about, and this will come into effect with the grant if we're talking to the shopkeepers. It doesn't. We're saying the town council colour scheme. And my question is to Stuart, did we actually come up with a colour scheme, what we would want the outside of the shop to look like? I know we gave a colour scheme to the YMCA, but I don't know if we've actually got what colour scheme it is. And perhaps planning to look at that at the next meeting. I don't know.
If I can come back on that, Mike, I can't recollect whether we prescribed the scheme. I don't know whether we did. I think we were just pointing out it should be suitable colours rather than like brash yellow and that type of thing. Obviously, Mike's made reference to corporate logos and that, but you go to places like Chester and that, and they seem to be able to do it sympathetically as part of a shop front rather than emblazoned all over the place and quite brash. So I think it's maybe at the next planning meeting we can just circulate the document to refresh all our councillors of what's in there so that we're aware.
Thank you very much. I'm going to return to the issue that two councillors now raised about the number of doors. I wonder whether there's a general feeling about whether we should be suggesting that they shouldn't at this stage be encouraged to reduce from 2 doors to 1 door. I guess it gives them more seating space if they have 1 door. I imagine that's what's behind it. So bigger footfall, bigger profit, and I must say, if you go into town the last 2 or 3 days, you'll find there's plenty of people drinking coffee at all the outlets. So maybe that's justified by the experience they're hoping to have. Anyway, question is, do we want to recommend or indeed insist that, in our opinion, it's a planning issue and we should be saying 2 doors is essential? Any other comments? We've had 2 in favour of saying 2 doors. I'm not usually stuck, but I'm not sure which way. If you haven't commented,
there's a comment from Councillor Robinson, says no issue with door reduction. They will have a fire evacuation plan.
Yes. I think I'm now saying that's 2 in favour and 1 against, so to speak. So we're a bit divided about whether we want to insist or try and insist on 2 doors. I think we'll take an opportunity to hear from a councillor we've not heard from yet. Carla, would you like to speak, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just think that'd be preferable if they kept the 2 doors, or at least if they were to insist on 1 door, make it a wider one, just rather than single door, have a double door. I think this got to do with the flow of people coming in and out. I think Dan's made a good point of make it difficult in COVID times. We introduce all these new regulations, which some of them are here to stay. Some of the shops will continue to use those methods because they are safer, and in the flow of people in their shops works better for them. I just think 1 single door is quite restrictive for a shop that size. I do take into account Councillor Robson's point that they will have a fire safety policy, and obviously they would have to as a requirement. So I'm assuming that's not an issue. But for the matter of flow and actually for convenience, I think for both customers and the people within the shop themselves, it's probably best for them to keep double doors or 2 doors in separate places as they had before. In regards to the whole outlook of the shop on the exterior, I subscribe to both Councillor Wright's and Canham's point. It's best to keep within the heritage look, and they make a good point. If Hemingway insists on try to promote the heritage of the town and try to promote the town and its looks as one of the points of attraction for people coming to visit, and then we ought to be cohesive on our approach to how we keep that look, in one single rounded sort of frame. We don't want to have the odd shop sort of standing out. Obviously, we can't do that overnight, and it's been clear, and that point's been made. But we can certainly take steps to minimize and mitigate those things, like the eyesores come out from new shops or shops being reused again. We're talking about Subway. If it was a small retailer within a budget, or I would understand the difficulty sometimes to use materials that are more flexible or more economic in refurbishing the shop. But thinking that Subways is a franchise and is a well-known brand, I don't think that the cost of improving the outside would be such an issue to the people making the application itself. But I do bear in mind that for that, and like Councillor Robson said, should make available the information to the public in general, to all of those that have shops within the area, rather than one single shop owner, which would benefit from having that information. I think they all ought to access that information and make their minds up whether or not it's of their interest to use that money, which is available there for the public and for the shop owners to take. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Councillor Hodgkinson has made a remark to say, I would prefer 2 doors and support the push for a more, a move towards a heritage look.
Thank you very much for that, Chris. Yep, I would. We are quite heavily divided. I think I would probably want to make the point that if you were sitting inside, it often, perhaps having a coffee or a meal, it's not actually all that desirable to have a door opening onto you and then a blast of cold air comes in. So I think you can make an argument for saying that 1 door is better than 2 in that respect. But obviously we're pretty divided on this. And it may be that we need to actually have a vote, which is a rare treat indeed. Let's see how we go. Brenda, you're going to come back, please.
Yeah, I am divided on 1 door, 2 doors. The simple reason is if a lot of people tend to just walk in there, get their coffee and come out. Well, you're actually, if you've got an in and an out, which makes sense, the people that have bought their coffee then go out the outdoor and they're not going to spill coffee over the people going in. You know, it sounds silly, but these things do happen. And I'm surprised that the shop hasn't thought of that. But I'm sort of divided.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, and I accept that I think we probably are fairly divided. And there's a nearby competitor where there are 2 doors, and in fact at the moment it's actually quite useful, as Dennis originally pointed out. But of course that we hope that the COVID virus will pass and that will no longer be a specific issue. But still, the point remains that Brenda's just made. I've got Dennis, I think, with a hand up again. Is that right, Dennis? Please, if you'd like to speak.
Yes. Yeah. I was just thank you for emphasizing what I was going to say. I think that one of the reasons is the COVID virus. If you have one single door and you have people going in and out, to maintain a social distance is going to be greatly made more difficult. So we really, with the 2 door and a flow system, so you come in one and go out the other, I think it's a much safer way. And I don't think this COVID virus is going away in any time soon. So I think we have to work for long term on it. Thank you.
Right, you are a pessimist indeed. Are we going to be saying to every other shop, you know, we want 2 doors in Smith's, for example, which is a places where people go out in and out of quickly because they're buying a paper and whatever. Admittedly, Brenda's point, they can't spill the paper in quite the same way. A bit of an issue here, colleagues. We're not really coming closer together on this. We're getting so divided that some of us are actually voting both ways. I'm not quite sure, to be honest, Mark Webster, how we proceed on this. We could, of course, simply have a straight vote of all the councillors and take it that way. And I'm trying to think they probably spent long enough on the number of doors to be perfectly brutally frank with you.
Would you like me to call a register?
Something which Brecon will deal with. However, if there was someone wanting to speak there, I think would possibly Brenda.
Would you like me to call a register, Chair, for 2 doors or 1 door?
I think we've given it a good hearing, a good airing. Let's do it that way.
I'll call out, if you like, the people who are here, and I'll ask them if they're going to vote for 2 doors or 1 door.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so here we go then. So first of all, Councillor Barretto, 1 or 2 doors?
2 doors, preferably.
Thank you. So now I've got Councillor Brindle.
1, please.
Yeah, so now I've got Councillor Canham.
I'm divided, so I'll abstain.
Okay. Sorry, that's thrown me a bit. Now I've got Councillor Crawford, please.
2, please.
Thank you. And now I've got Councillor Harvey, please.
2.
Thank you. Chris Harvey, sorry about this. Doing my arithmetic. Now I've got Councillor Hodgkinson.
2, please.
Thank you. Now I've got Councillor Hollis, please.
2, please. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Now I've got Councillor Robinson, please.
1 door. I presume it's being put in by Shaky Stevens. Is it a big green door?
Then I've got Councillor Wright, please.
2, please.
Okay, so that is a clear majority. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 against 2. 6 for the 2 door.
Right,
I haven't asked you, Chair.
we've had a vote, and I think that's a very clear majority.
Yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
I'm hoping that we can move on. Yeah, I think Councillor Robinson has admitted his mistake. All I can say to you, Councillor Robinson, is that the joy you had as a teenager took place long after I did. So at least you're not the eldest in the room. With that,
It's a green door, I think.
That cryptic comment, I'm going to suggest that we now say, thank you, Brenda. Yeah, you're too honest for your own good, Brenda. I'm going to suggest that, therefore, Mark Webster, what we have to do now is oppose the proposal on the grounds that we want 2 doors, and that if that were to be agreed, we would also like more of a heritage approach as detailed in the previous discussion. I wonder whether I can ask you to try and write something which covers both the points, please.
Yeah, if we definitely have a clear sort of consensus in favour of oppose, is that worth putting to the vote just to check that, or at least just confirm people's opinions? That
Yes.
just to remind councillors that there are 4 options if we're submitting a comment. I can go support, object, comment, or no comment, and then whatever I say on those 4 options, I can put down the comment. Yes, can we perhaps do we need to be clear about that oppose is the opinion of the council?
Is there any councillor who, having heard the discussion and taken part in the vote, wishes to support this proposal? Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
Is there anyone who is unhappy with the idea that we should oppose the proposal? Thank you very much indeed. Mark Webster, I think you can take your instructions from that, if that's okay, if I put that rather crude way, and apologies for doing that. A good discussion, colleagues, quite a lot of feeling about it, and I think that's really important that we continue to support our High Street, King Street, as best we can. It's something that we would like really to be deciding, I think, rather than really recommending to Grassland, but let's hope they listen to what we've said. With that, can we move on to the next item, please, Mark Webster?
Yep, 432, house on Nunsgate, shown by the red boundary there and pictured to your right. So excuse me. So there's a rear extension which is actually already covered by, if people can see where my arrow is there, as an area of roof which is just supported by columns, but then is open to the air, which is actually round the back of the house here. So the idea is to infill that with an actual enclosed room, replace new PVC windows and a new skylight window on the garage roof while they're at it. So this picture here just again shows basically all of these windows being replaced with UV PVC. But as I said, the main gist of this in terms of the extension is there. As you can see, that's an open, although covered space, which is intended to be turned into part of the house with an actual room there. So, yeah, back to you, Chair, on that one.
Thanks very much, Mark. This house is on the little spur of Nunsgate, which I suppose is the nearest point on Nunsgate to the Nuns Bridges, if that gives you a clue where it is. It is, I think, fairly clearly behind the house and likely to have very little visual impact on people looking along Nuns Gate. And if you were on Nuns Bridges Road, you'd basically see trees. So probably not very noticeable aesthetically. Are there any comments, please? Or can we agree that we support this? I'm going to put that to you as a support. Stuart is supporting. That's just to comment on it. I've not seen the remark. Are there any? Okay, reverse it again. Is there anyone in opposition to this proposal, please? We're getting several supports, but no one in opposition yet.
Well, I had my hand up, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, Brenda. My apologies. Your opportunity. Do you wish to speak, Brenda?
Yeah, just a quick one. I would say subject to neighbours. I don't think the neighbours would complain, but I would like to say subject to neighbours, just in case, you know, they haven't seen all the plans properly.
I think we can use the time-honoured phrase if we want to, however much attention Grassland takes to it. Okay, I think we've given it a moment or three, possibly enough. So we're going to say, colleagues, last chance now, we're going to say we are a supporter of this proposal.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And we're going to move on to 442, please, Mark Webster.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Chair. So Nunnery Drive, the house you can see pictured, and the area we're looking at is basically just there in that corner. It's a new porch, which, as I say, literally just sits in that little corner. There's the existing doorway I was just pointing at, and that's what it would look like under these proposals.
Thank you very much. As someone who lives very close by, I'd just remark that this is a common development on houses of this type, and I'll invite you to say that you support it. And at the same time, if any colleague opposes that, speak now, please, or forever hold your peace.
Support. And I lived there, Chair, for 15 years.
Thank you for that valuable comment, Chris. Are you saying that you lived in a house with a similar plan? He's not saying. Okay, I think we can put ourselves down, Mark Webster, as a supporter of that one.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, 454 Admiral Way. Now, the plan here, which has already been approved by Grassland, was to build a new two-storey extension in place of an existing smaller extension on the side of the house here. So that is the plan basically that has been approved. So it would be on the side of this house here. What's being proposed now is a change in the internal layout. Now, I apologise for the fact that it's rather washed out the previous proposed plan on the left there, but this is the extension on the side of the house here. And again, apologies for that. I've had to match like with like. I've had to put this on its side, so hopefully you're not sort of straining your necks to read this. But basically, the original proposal was for a dining room and a utility area on the ground floor. This is now being proposed to be replaced by a single larger lounge area there. Upstairs, they were going to have one sort of master bedroom, one large bedroom with a fairly sizable ensuite bathroom. The proposal now is to have two smaller bedrooms, each of which have their own ensuite toilet and shower, in addition to the existing two bedrooms, again, each of which have their own facilities. So that would leave that, as I said, with four units, if you like, which each have their own, or four bedrooms which each have their own ensuite facilities.
Okay, thank you. And any comments, please, on this as a revised proposal?
There's a hands up from Councillor Hodgkinson, Chair.
Yes, David Hodgkinson, if you'd like to speak, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a little concerned with the layout upstairs, because it looks to me like a layout that would support an HMO It's very, very unusual not to have a family bathroom and to have sort of 4 shower rooms all en suite. And I just wondered whether that was the plan and whether anyone at planning has queried that. But there was a previous application here to actually build an additional house rather than an extension, and that's got refused. And the grounds that we objected to it was on overdevelopment and putting pressure on the parking in the area. And I think if this was intended as an HMO and you end up with 4 separate people or separate families, even couples maybe, that would involve quite a lot of vehicles. That's my estimation of what happens in HMOs, having seen a few of them. So I'm not quite sure whether this fits in with the area, but whether there's a planning reason that we can object to it on, I don't know.
Yeah, I think we are under some difficulty here because it in itself is not a planning reason, I guess, and you could perfectly well argue that actually what's happened is there's an elderly person moved in who wants their own privacy, or there's 2 teenagers, a boy and a girl, and they hate each other's guts and they each want their own bathroom. You know, you can find a legitimate, as it were, reason as well as illegitimate. I think probably what we should do, if I make a suggestion to you, colleagues, that we agree this, we support it, but we say that Grassland would want to assure themselves that this is not intended to be a house of multiple occupancy, which kind of covers us a bit. However, having put that in your minds, colleagues, I invite you to say whether you want to speak. I've certainly got Stuart, and then I think I've got Brenda. So we start with Stuart, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just echoing Dave's sentiments. I think that's what sprung to mind when I saw them. But I think you got the right course of action, Chair. We support, but we do question the HMO aspect, because potentially it could be whoever's developing it quickly sell it on, and suddenly you do have an HMO and you do have a lot of parking issues there. Yep. But I think it's right for us to flag it.
Thank you very much, Brenda.
And mine was the same as yours, Mr. Chairman. Just ask the question: are they going to be keeping an eye on it? Because I can't, you know, you've got loads of visitors, and you're like, I can't see if they've got a downstairs loo. But you know, where do they go? Have they got to cut through your bed? That makes sense. So, yeah.
Yeah, just to confirm, the plans as submitted don't have a downstairs. I beg your pardon. It does have a downstairs loo. That's passed me by. It's there in the corner. It's just not marked as a actual picture of one, but there is WC is written there. I beg their pardon.
Yeah, thanks for the comment and for the response from Mark. I'm going to suggest, colleagues, that we okay this. We say we support this and ask Mark Webster to write in expressing concern about the possible misuse of the property as a house of multiple occupancy. We can certainly oppose it if you like, but I really don't think that's going to be a good planning ground for saying these people can't bring up to date the modern concept that everybody needs their own shower room and everybody needs their own bathroom. The fact is that that is happening more and more. We do leave ourselves open to the possibility that colleagues have rightly raised about HMOs. That's I think as long as we draw the attention of Grassland to that, we've done our job. So the proposal is, unless you oppose it, that we say yes to this, and we say that watch it, Grassland is possibly an HMO or at risk, as David said, of becoming an HMO when it's sold on. So I think I'd suggest to you that we've done our job if we'd say that. Any opposition to that proposal, please? Okie dokie, I'm going to push you on a little bit because, colleagues, we've got the whole of item 942 to look forward to. And I think the planning officer did make the point at the beginning that we had lots to do, and by goodness, we are proving that. Okay, so What's the next one? It looks like 475, the last on this item, please.
Yeah,
From
I'm glad you're looking forward to 942, Chair. It's good to have something to look forward to. Yep, so Bergamot Close. So we're looking at this house in the corner here, which is marked by the arrow, if you can see that. So we're looking at that corner house there. So at present, it has what's a sort of fairly often seen is a glass conservatory with a sort of half octagon shape there, and the proposal, so this is the existing on top in this case and proposed underneath. Proposal is for a room to be part of the house, but sort of a sunroom as it's called, with that skylight and French windows or extensive windows to the sides there. And yeah, so just basically, if we look at the floor plan, so as I say, that's the conservatory as is, to be replaced by this room being added onto the house, and the roof view there. Okay, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Colleagues, I'm going to recommend to you that we say yes to this. If you wish to say yes, please say now. If you wish to say no, let's be having you now. Oi. Worried by my last remark that we've got lots to look forward to. I think we're saying yes without any further ado. So this is we are a supporter. Last chance to say you got it wrong. We are a supporter. Okay, lovely. Colleagues, item 942 is 5 lines on your piece of paper, but I can assure you there's more than that to enjoy. So over to you, Mark, again.
Okay, so the proposal here is for this house here, which you can again see in more close detail on there with that plot with a little red line there marking this spot here. So the proposal is to remove this rear garden fence and thus have vehicle access from this road here, Lord Cecil Court, into this property to provide a parking space for the residents in there. There is one local comment against it on the grounds of sort of lack of parking and would cause problems for the original the people who have rights to park there, and saying that in their opinion the resident doesn't actually have the right of access across there. Yes, it's there's a sort of proposal is in place for that resident to be able to get a parking space through this fence into there.
Thank you very much, Mark. Again, colleagues, I'm going to recommend to you or propose to you that we say yes to this. Are there any? Yes, there's a comment, please, required from Mark Robinson, if you'd like to carry on, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mike. I actually took the time to visit this site. I understand the curb, there's some sort of a discussion issue whose ownership that's under, because I believe the applicant believes it's in their land, and actually it's not public highway. Also, the applicant is actually on Old Market Street, and this will impact and have a domino effect on the parking in Lord Cecil Court. So I know you're looking to support, but I'm against. Sorry to put a spanner in the works.
Fully entitled to be so, Mr. Mayor. And a comment from Brenda and then from Stuart Wright.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chairman, I was a bit confused because what we're saying is we want to take the fence away so that he can drive in there, but actually it's not his land and he's got no right of way to be in there. How can we support something if he hasn't got that? Is that what you were saying, Mark?
Well, that is the claim from one of the comments on the Breckland website. So I'm afraid I'm not in a position to give legal judgment on that. So there remains a question over that. Perhaps I could suggest that members make a sort of a decision based on the information available, i.e. to say we're making a decision on the proposal rather than making a decision on whose lawyers we believe on the question of ownership. It would be and you can include a comment if you wish on, subject to the settlement of the legal dispute, or if should the dispute be settled in the applicant's favour, we would support or we would oppose on that basis.
Colleagues, I agreed. I said there would be someone else to speak, and then forgot who it was, which is because I now have a sieve in my mind rather than a memory. And then I've got, after that person, unless I've got it wrong, it's Dennis. So is there someone? Was it Stuart? I'm guessing desperately, who wanted to speak.
Yes, please.
Yes, Stuart. Okay, please.
Yeah, I think people are allowed to put planning applications in for land that they don't own. I know this legal, which is a strange thing. I know we've had this in the past. So we are looking at the application and whether we support or disagree with it. But looking at it, you can see that there's yellow lines there, which means they're not supposed to be parking that aspect of it. However, where the bins are going forward, there looks to be a space there, so it might have an impact on the person within that space. The idea of somebody parking their car on their own ground as opposed to in the car park or on the streets probably does help with the reduction in parking problems, or it may cause movement problems with that specific area there near the bins. So I think we can't really do a lot in terms of the legal ownership aspect of it. We can make the comment that obviously subject to that being resolved, whether we vote for or against it. But I think we've got to look at the plans. Do we support the plans of him having a parking space in his own land? And I think my gut feel would be to say it does reduce parking pressures elsewhere by having him on his own land, but I do understand that will cause a problem to the neighbour there who maybe get his car wing nipped as they try and squeeze in there. But I think we can't really do much about the legal aspect other than make reference to it.
Can I just ask you, Stuart, if you feel that we're really saying that we should support it? Are you able to say whether you would be a supporter or an opposer?
I personally would probably support getting him having the extra space on his own land, which then reduces parking elsewhere. Yeah. But
so bearing in mind the comment you made, which is of course that we can't deal with the legal issue of ownership. That's so to speak. That's a proposal on the table. Dennis, you wanted to comment, please.
Yes, I'm just saying that I will be voting against this. I'm in support of what the mayor said at this time, because I think it's going to cause problems with him crossing their area. And if somebody wanted to park there in front of his, where he's going to make this entrance, it may cause a whole bunch of trouble. So I will support what the mayor said. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments to be made, colleagues? I think I'm tempted to say we actually probably better if we go for a vote on this one again, which again is could be a record to do it twice in one meeting. But any other comments first, and then I'll put it to a vote. Okie dokie. I wonder whether we can ask the voting mechanism to creep in again, please.
You can indeed. So I'm going to ask you in turn again. I'm going to ask you if you're for it or against it. So first of all, I got Councillor Barretto, for or against, please.
I will actually abstain. I'm unsure about the whole conundrum with whose territory that is and the facility of moving traffic back and forth. So when in doubt, I'll abstain.
Okay. Councillor Canham.
I'll be against.
Yeah. Sorry, I've got to look down here now. Councillor Crawford.
Against.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, I'm again.
Yeah. Councillor Hodgkinson.
For.
Yeah. Councillor Hollis.
I'm going to go against. I'm a bit worried about it.
Councillor Robinson.
Against.
Yeah. And last of all, Councillor Wright.
For.
Thank you. So that's a clear majority of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Someone's yes, Chairman, I'm listening. I'm hearing the suggestion that Councillor Burnett is with us and would like to vote, or at least Councillor Burnett, if you are with us, please, you're very welcome. And do you wish to vote, please?
Yes, I would, and I'm against it.
Thank you very much indeed. Can we have a count up, please?
I'll count it up now with, with Colin in there. So I've got 1, 2, 3. Sorry, you're against, weren't you, Colin? Yeah,
right.
Sorry. Colin? For
yes,
or against?
Against.
Okay, thank you. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 now, and 2 for.
Thank you very much. That's defeated. So we are, well, we are an opponent, and I'm tempted to say, Mark Webster, whether you feel that we've got grounds, we may wish to just to say we're an opponent and play it safe, if that's the simplest thing.
Well, I do have to enter some form of comment, Chair. I can enter the words no comment if you wish.
In that case, as our revered planning officer, I'm very happy to put you in the spotlight and say, help yourself. I think we're obviously concerned about the issue of ownership, and we're having to admit that's not really our problem, but that we are concerned about access. Perhaps that's the right word. I must say, it strikes me that if I wanted to do what this applicant wants to do, I'd want to come armed with my neighbour's support beforehand, and I just wonder whether that's something that's relevant. We don't seem to have any evidence that consultation has taken place, surprisingly. We're clearly against it. So perhaps the reason is that we are not satisfied that approaches have been made to neighbours to get their consent on what is something that will affect other parties. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think I can use the phrase something of the order that concerns over vehicle access to the site, bringing them into conflict with sort of neighbouring parking. Yep. Something along those lines would cover the view of the committee if everyone's happy with that.
Okay, I'm going to invite you to carry on then, please, Mark Webster.
Yeah, so 470, so Stevenson Way rather. So we're looking at this building here, which you can see in front of you. So here's the road that photo is taken from. And if we go on to the views, and again, apologies for the small writing and sort of rather faintness of this overall picture, but basically if you're looking at the front of it, that's where we were just looking from. That's there, and this darker lined roof represents the proposed new development at the back of the site. So there's looking from the back of the site, and again you can see it on the sides there. It will probably be clearer if we look at it from above. So again, here's the road from where you were looking at the picture at the front of the building. So this is the proposed area of new development along there. It's basically an extra bit of room for storage and cutting up foam items, which is their business. So it's a section on the back of the existing building there. And I did check, actually, there's no new staffing proposed as a result of this, so it wouldn't be any issue with a sort of extra parking being required. Thank you, Chair.
Support.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Can I invite colleagues to comment if they wish, particularly if you wish to oppose this? I'm going to propose that we support it. So is there anyone who wishes to oppose it, please? Or wishes to speak about opposing it? Okay. I'm getting 1 or 2 supporters. Okay, colleagues, I think if you'd wish to speak in favour against, I think you've had the opportunity. So we're now a supporter of that particular item, and Mark Webster, I invite you to move on to Untitled Way.
480, as I say, 16 as was, sort of pre-approval, is now gone to full application. So, yeah, we're looking at this house on Icknield Way. And from this view, we're looking at the back of that house, so from behind it there. So that's the road that we're looking at there. And this circled area, which I'll just move up so you get a chance to see, is the proposed new development. And again, I've circled it on the right there. That small extension to the back of the house. And again, if we look at the existing profile at the top there and the proposed elevations at the lower half there, again, I've circled in blue the extra bit that's proposed to be added onto the house. They've also provided rather nice snazzy 3D exploded diagrams there. So it's this extra bit here that is going to be proposed, and yeah, and that's it basically for that one.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Harvey would like to speak, please. Chris, your turn.
Yeah, thank you. I visited this when this first came out, and the thing I have no objection, it's a common sense thing to do. It's as we decided at the time, depending on subject to neighbours, I think the famous expression.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else wish to speak? Or are we content with what Chris has just said?
I am.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you very much, everybody. That's now decisive. We have sufficient support to carry it.
Okay, shall we continue with the next one, Chair?
Yes, please. On to Baxter's.
Yeah, so this is one of these sort of discharge of conditions or fulfilment of conditions that have been placed on an existing application that has been granted permission. So it's a condition of the planning permission for 2 new cooling towers on the edge of their site. Baxter's were required to produce this noise impact report. So I've highlighted some of these sort of key points there, which hopefully everyone's had a chance to look through. But basically, the report has found that sound levels in gardens nearby to the site were higher than recommended and could be considered as a statutory nuisance, and therefore further attempts must be made to reduce the noise from the site as it exists currently. There are quite, if anybody's read the report, there's quite a lot of technical information on there, but basically in summary, if these recommendations of the consultant are put in place, they say that the sound level from the existing plant should then be reduced to within guidelines. However, the new cooling towers would then still exceed the maximum sound level allowed. So they are recommending silencers and a barrier to be installed. And then if those recommendations are put in place, the consultants say that noise level should then be within acceptable levels. So as I said, this details how these conditions can be fulfilled. And yes, over to you, Chair, for any comments.
Well, that's kind of you. Thank you. I think I lost a hand somewhere. I'm not sure. Was it Chris? Was it Dave? Someone
yes,
had a hand up.
from Chris Harvey.
Thank you very much. Chris Harvey and then Jen.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, the residents nearby have been complaining for years about the amount of noise from this site. I think this is a really good report, and it's definitely a major step forward.
Thank you very much. Jen Hollis, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree. I've read the report and I think if they comply with all what's been put out for them to do, then it should be supported. I will support it, but they've got to fulfil the what they've been advised to do. Because of the residents, it would be horrendous for them. So yeah, I support as long as they do what the conditions are.
Thank you very much. And Brenda, I think you'd like to speak, please.
Yeah, it's just a question, really. I am supporting it if it's going to reduce the noise, but if we're reducing the noise, or they're putting silences or something, Mark was saying, within the report, why have they got to screen it? Because of what it looks like, or to help reduce the noise? Because if it's got mufflers on it, we shouldn't reduce it. which should be reducing the noise anyway, shouldn't it?
I'm afraid I'm not a sort of technical specialist in sort of noise reduction measures. My understanding is that these sort of the silencers or dampeners reduce the noise to a certain extent, and then a barrier would reduce it further. So I think those are both part of a sort of suite of measures to reduce noise from reaching the nearby properties, basically.
Okay, thank you. And I think Dave had a hand up too.
From Councillor Hodgkinson.
Yes, Dave, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wondered whether there was a condition that once all this work is done and the new towers are put in and the screening and the barriers, that they have to come back and then measure the sound levels again to make sure that it's within compliance. And if there is no condition there, then maybe we should support but ask for further testing after the installation to ensure compliance.
If memory serves, I believe there is. I'm not sure whether it's actually listed here, but I seem to remember that was included. As I say, it's a very long report, but I believe that is in there.
Well,
yeah, I mean, we could certainly include a comment to say that along the lines that we would expect checks made out to see that the noise levels are within acceptable limits.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right. We look forward to hearing the results of further testing, just to make the point that we are expecting it, and yeah, I think that covers it. Okay, I think we can say that we are in support, given that they've made some improvements and given the just a little hypothetical issue of whether they're going to carry on testing afterwards, which we would like them to do. Okie dokie. Mark, what's your next excitement?
Right, so 80, 81 and 82 is a series of sort of notices that the developers of Allison's Close, which goes off the Croxton Road, are saying that they have complied with all the conditions required for this development. The only thing that I thought might be of interest to councillors or note to councillors is that it's literally a private road, and one of their conditions for development is a maintenance plan for this access road. So if there were any issues with that development, particularly with reference to the state of the road, the access road, now might be a good time to raise them.
Any comments, please, colleagues? I think probably silence is golden on this occasion. So we're hearing what they're saying. And Mark, would you like to move on to the Forest Retail Park issue?
Yeah. Did you actually wish to issue a comment on that? Are we just do we need to put in a comment? Do we need to put in the support for that one? Or
I would have thought we just said
leave it as a note.
We're happy that they say they've fulfilled their requirements.
Okay, so Forest Retail Park. The site you're looking at in the picture there is going to where the KFC and Costa are going to be. There is a mitigation, a series of mitigations for the loss of the grassland habitat is proposed here. I've actually already submitted some comments, sort of my opinions on the sort of plan which is proposed to the Natural Environment team at Norfolk County Council, who are handling some of the mitigation measures. That refers basically to a sort of planting of trees and shrubs, which, as I say, in my opinion, they're not really taking account of the flora that's already there. Colleagues may remember, or members may remember, when this application came in, my thoughts that the ecological report at the time didn't really show much evidence of having sort of looked in detail at the site. And I still think to a certain extent that's true. What I was actually going to raise sort of members' attention to is this possibility for mitigation off-site. As I said, the plan for this area has actually been accepted by Breckland, but as I say, I'm still hoping to have some influence over that to make sure that sort of the new planting doesn't actually damage the existing quite valuable grassland habitat. I was going to suggest to members if they have any thoughts on areas within the town. I mean, that could be areas that the town council manages or other areas that would be suitable for off-site mitigation. As the site itself is quite constrained, there's been sort of loss of habitat obviously on the site, and there's not a great deal of room to make further improvements. Their proposal is to mitigate this by having improvements to biodiversity, to wildlife habitats, meadows or possibly others on some other nearby sites. There are a number of our sites where I think we could benefit from additional wildflower habitat, but as I said, over to you, Chair, and members on this one, to basically suggest any areas where they think we might propose improved habitats. Did you want to put that to members now, or shall I also mention the other two aspects of this report that are included there?
Let's just quickly offer an opportunity there. If there are any specific areas, colleagues, that you would like to see improved, it might be an option now to either speak with this committee, or indeed, if there are no suggestions, you're welcome to speak to Mark Webster subsequently. Stuart, I think you might be having an idea. How about you, Stuart?
Unmute. Mark, probably aware that the land by the Thomas Paine, which we've got a license to cultivate there, I wonder if the little wooded walk could benefit from a few little wildflowers, and that's been put in there.
Yeah, it's certainly sort of spring bulbs and possibly sort of wildflower plugs, spring flowering plants there in that site would be an option. Yeah, I can include that.
Thank you. Brenda, have your hand up?
I do. I was thinking of Frederick's Wood, the wood near, I'm terrible at names, near the Warrener. I can't remember the name of that woods, where Bush Adventures was in there.
Oh, Main Street Woods, yeah.
Main Street Wood. I think some of our wooded areas, and the Stuart said that main road, areas like that, and perhaps even the corner of Brandon Road, whether
School Plain, yeah,
School Plain. That's it. That's all I can think of at the moment.
No, that's very helpful. Thank you. And I think we've got Dennis also coming with a hand up. Dennis, your turn.
Yeah, there was one more, and that is that walk towards Tesco's from Hurt Way. You're walking along the main road. I don't know if there's. It might. I mean, it's probably not ours, but you know, and look that little walkway along there. I think that'd be nice.
Are you on the Green Lane side?
No, I'm on the main road.
Yep.
On the Cloverfield side, but I'm on the main road and I'm walking to Tesco's. They've got like a little forestry that they walk through to get to Tesco's.
That's Green Lane, yeah.
Is that
is Green Lane, Brenda.
Oh, I'm not very good at these lanes. I get them all muddled up.
Well, we all do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if okay, that's a further suggestion from you. Thank you. And I lost someone. Was it Dennis Crawford? I think Dennis were going to come in.
Yeah. Mark, am I right? We were mitigation for was grassland.
That is certainly, yeah, it's mitigation for loss of grassland, so that would certainly be a sort of best fit if we can improve grassland habitats elsewhere. Although there is some loss of sort of woodland or woodland edge and scrub habitat as well. But yeah, certainly improvements to grassland habitats would be, I suppose, the preferred option. But they have Norfolk County Council also did mention to me several Trafalgar Wood and sort of so woodlands, for example, or any kind of ground flora certainly could be eligible.
Couldn't we work as this School Plain said it was mentioned, and that's open grassland mostly. Couldn't we work something out where we put some less mowing on there and a little bit of letting it go to wildlife, because grassland is quite a spare thing. We've got quite a bit of woodland around, but we're running out of grassland rather quickly, I think. So that's my opinion anyway. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for that. We're not talking in this specific case about changes to mowing regimes. I have my own sort of thoughts on that, as you may be aware, about a number of sites, and certainly something that I would like to make a move on in the future. What this is an opportunity for is to make sort of one-off improvements to sites. So, for example, at School Plain, we could look to seed or plant up an area and get the costs of that met potentially. That's something we could bid for from this opportunity, rather than simply changing the existing management regimes, if you like, which is something we can, as I said, definitely look to do, but wouldn't be covered necessarily by this sort of proposal, if you see what I mean. So, but yes, School Plain duly noted. Yeah.
There's an observation, Chair, from Councillor Robinson that says the main road to Tesco is Norwich Road. There is a thin strip of wooded area running parallel.
I think that was to do with Brenda's comment, and I think we're happy to accept that, Mark Robinson. Thank you, and I think we've got that one covered.
Chair, just one more comment. We do have some grassland within the cemetery. I just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah.
So we can enhance it a little. Cheers.
Yeah, thank you.
Again, one of the things, I mean, again, duly noted, one of the things we have with this is that often our sites, the best way to manage them, and it's the same point as regards this area actually, is not really to reseed the areas, but to allow those wildflowers that are already there to thrive by appropriate management. So it is actually a bit problematic or I've certainly found it a bit problematic finding suitable areas where it's actually better to sort of start from scratch and reseed rather than manage the existing resources or the existing sort of biodiversity that's actually there already. So yeah, I mean, all of the suggestions have been put forward so far have definite possibilities that where we can sort of do some useful tweaks. But yeah, just to bear that in mind, I think generally speaking, I think, as I say, I think it's something that's very much true of this area itself and a lot of other sites, is that it's about management rather than sort of replacing the good stuff that's there with a sort of slightly artificial wildflower mix. Okay. I think I've got enough of a steer from the committee on that one, Chair, if you're happy with that. I think any more comments?
We've made some good suggestions. I'm happy to leave Mark Webster in the position of following that up, if you will. Mark, are there any more items on the late planning applications?
Yes, still on that same item. There's a couple of other issues which or conditions of this planning permission that they're attempting to meet with these reports that have been circulated. So on waste disposal, the KFC and Costa have both produced statements detailing how they will deal with the waste that they collect. There's some actually quite forward-looking sort of treatment of the waste that they do collect is being undertaken with quite a lot of composting and recycling of the sort of mixed wastes that they're collecting. The thing that I thought the committee might be interested in is that the KFC plan does actually mention litter picking in their car parks, which they say they'll do at least 3 times a day, or as required at least 3 times a day. That doesn't seem to be mentioned in anything in the Costa document that I saw. So if colleagues would like to mention, and members like to mention anything on waste disposal or waste collection for the sites, again, that's something where we can include a comment if you wish.
Any comments, please? I'm going to recommend that we support this. Are there any comments, please?
Support.
Thank you very much. Is anyone not wishing to support this? Anyone who should speak against it? Okay, I'm going to suggest we push on, Mark.
So
we support that.
Waste disposal. Yeah, and the only other issue that's come up under these things is the traffic management. So when the Town Council previously responded to the original planning application, a comment was made about making sure that additional traffic management was put in place as the current junction, particularly when it comes to turning into the Forest Retail Park from London Road, is already struggling to cope with people filtering right into that lane as it is. So there is a construction traffic management plan that's been produced to the site. The new junction would be formed with the existing roadway, which is currently the service road into the east side of the site. It doesn't actually specify at this stage what form that new junction would take, but it does say it would be a new junction there. They do anticipate most traffic still going through the existing entrance. They also say that the new junction will only be open to the general public once the construction phase has finished. So it will be used for construction vehicles and service initially, and then it will be open to the public for use after that. So yes, are there any comments on the traffic management proposed for the site?
Mr. Chairman, can I just comment on that one?
You certainly can.
Thank you. On that junction where they come out of the service thing, would they be able to make that just the one way so that it goes down and we don't collide, it just goes one way? Because I'm thinking if they come out and turn around, they can always go round and turn around and go back up. Because when you see them at the Sainsbury's junction, you've got the traffic split in two ways, and they just don't seem to want to move. So would that be easier for the flow of traffic just to be a one-way exit? I don't know if we can do that, can we? I don't know. I'm not a driver, so you'll have to bear with me.
It certainly hasn't been proposed at this stage. I mean, if the committee wants to propose that or make a comment that would be an improvement, we could include that.
So I've got to take advice from you drivers, because I don't drive. Only people mad as my children.
I won't comment, but I will invite Dave Hodgkinson to speak, please.
Yeah, I'm just noting what Jenny said. That new entrance and exit that they're proposing is the existing service road that goes round to the back of Sainsbury's.
Yes.
That goes around the edge of the site. So I think there's got to be traffic inbound on that road because that's the way the trucks come in.
Yes.
So you know, if it was going to be one way, then it would be that you could enter the site but not exit the site. I think having an alternate exit from that site would be better.
Sorry, that's what I meant. If you come in the normal way at the junction at the beginning where you've got the petrol station, as if you're going in as you are now.
I'm making that one way.
Make the service area just a one way for going out, as well as you've got the junction, but it
so you've got a through flow. Yeah, that's a possibility. Yeah.
Can I suggest, colleagues, I appreciate these comments, which are helpful. Can I suggest that we simply ask Grassland that they look at the possibility of whether there's any possibility of a one-way system being introduced? Would that be a helpful way forward?
Yeah,
sounds good.
We ask, can't we? They can only say no or yes. So
exactly.
You've got 50 chances, Chairman.
Okay, I wonder whether we can leave Mark Webster to make that suggestion to them, just to encourage them to look at that option.
Okay.
That isn't by any chance the last one on this list, is it?
I think we are. It's the Late Show of a proposed extension to the existing warehouse, which is on the corner of Fyson Way and Howlett Way. So you can see the site pictured there. We're looking at that bit of it there in the photo. And basically, you've got your existing on the left and the proposed on the right. So looking at the front, not a great deal would change apart from that Hughes sign on there. And the back of the building is just where the new extension, and it's quite a sizable extension, would go. So looking at the size of it, you can see that in proportion to the rest of the building. And again on there, there's the sign. And this one might be useful as well. So we were looking at the front of the building there with that extra offices, and it's this area basically on the back of that existing building. Just to flip back, as I didn't actually mention at the time, but yeah, so in terms of parking spaces, only 12 spaces at the moment. They would put in 20 more car parking spaces and 20 more for vans. There's no actual change to the number of employees, but as I said, they've got this extra 700 square meters of warehouse space at the back of the existing building there.
Thank you very much. Any comments, please?
Agree.
We should support a local business.
Thank you very much for leading us that way. We've got one or two people saying support. Can I suggest that that's the way we ought to go? Is there anyone who wishes to speak against, please? Okie dokie. I think in that case we can say that we are in support. So with that, we can leap on to 943. Mark Webster, are there any decisions of variance?
Still none as for this month.
Okay, 944. I think this is something which we put on the agenda in case it's needed. Clearly, we're not going to ask for a report from members of the committee in the reverse direction, but can I assume, colleagues, that we do not wish to agree any items to be referred to GTP? Is that correct, please?
Agreed.
Agreed. Agreed. Agreed.
Okay, thank you. We're on a roll here, colleagues. It's 945.
Mr. Chairman, sorry to interrupt.
Sorry, am I rushing you too quickly?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to bring up something. The man that runs the GTP, I can't remember his name now.
Jack Weaver.
Jack Weaver, thank you. Is it worth getting him on board to what we want to achieve for King Street, Market Street, Kendall Street, and what our plans are? I'm just wondering whether it's trying to, perhaps Stuart could have a word or Mark could have a word on what we are.
I think that's an excellent suggestion, just to make absolutely sure that he is clear what we mean when we say this is a heritage area. It's an easy phrase to use, but it's important that we do check, we understand. I wonder whether we can agree that we'll make an approach to Jack just to ask whether he's happy with our definition of heritage and goes along with it, which he ought to and probably will. Is that something we can do, Mark Webster, please?
Yep, I can certainly send that document to him and ask him to take it into account.
Make sure he's got it. Okay, many thanks for that late comment. I think that was very helpful. And I see us now on 945, and my remark is going to be basically that I think we put it on for safety's sake. We do need to have this on the agenda next time around. The assumption, I think, is that there'll be a planning discussion at Suffolk in June, and we need to have the thoughts as to whether we want to send a group, whether we want to send more paperwork, whether we want to say to the members of the public who have expressed concern, or to the parishes in Suffolk that have expressed concern, we support you, we're with you, but believe it's up to you now. I think we just need to make this clear that it's likely to be an item to discuss next time around, but there has been nothing that we need to report this time. And thank you. I'm not. It's lovely to have agreement, even though I didn't ask for it. That's wonderful. So on to 946. Committee officers update, please.
Yeah, just a few things to rattle through. I think everyone's well aware that the M&Co store is going to be turned into a smaller retail unit. That's been approved. The townhouse fencing has been approved. And just one you might not be aware of, that that set of quite tall trees at One Priory Park, not going to be felled, but there is going to TPO work as detailed there to trim some of the branches, has been approved by Hugh Coggles, the tree officer at Breckland. So if you see someone with a chainsaw there, then they should be going about, as I said, some judicious pruning of those. And finally, a sort of bit of late news is that there's only the burger place on the Thetford Riverside by the cinema is going to close, but 2 new restaurants are going to share that space from now on. So those pizza and burger restaurant will fill that unit, and it is hoped that the other vacant unit will be filled as well. So I guess a bit of good news for the town centre.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. And ladies and gentlemen, finally, after this marathon, we're at 9:47. Is there anything you wish to put onto the community engagement list? So is there anything that you wish to produce a media release? The usual answer is no. I invite you to say that again. Anyone wish to disagree? No. Right. Well, in that case, colleagues, I have a great disappointment. I'm not able to ask you to suspend standing orders because we've managed it in 1 hour and 58 minutes. With that, colleagues, I'd like to thank you all very much indeed for your support, your flagging interest in a mixed bag today, and to say thanks indeed. And the meeting is now closed.
Mr. Chairman, Stuart's got his hand up. He's had it up.